There are truths hidden in plain sight that most people walk past every single day without a second thought. What if something as ordinary as a visit to a salon or a barbershop carried a deeper, unseen dimension? Today, we uncover a perspective that challenges comfort and invites awareness. This is not about fear, but about understanding practices that many have never questioned. When someone who once lived inside that world speaks out, it demands attention. What you are about to hear may change the way you see everyday routines and the things you leave behind without thinking. When we talk about hair, most people think of it as something simple, something we cut, style, and discard without a second thought. But what if I told you that in many belief systems, hair is seen as more than just a physical part of the body? It is viewed as a symbol of identity, a quiet carrier of who you are. Across different cultures and traditions, there has always been a belief that anything that comes from you still holds a connection to you. This idea may sound unfamiliar to some, but to others, it is something deeply respected. The point here is not to create fear, but to open your awareness to perspectives that exist beyond the surface of everyday life. Think about it for a moment. Everything that belongs to you carries a story, your energy, your presence. Hair grows with you, it changes with you, and it is part of your natural identity. In certain traditions, people believe that this connection does not disappear once it is cut. Instead, it remains symbolically tied to the person it came from. This belief is what gives personal items like hair their perceived importance. It is not about the object itself, but what it represents. Understanding this helps you realize why something so small could be valued in ways you may have never considered before. Now here is where awareness becomes powerful, because whether you believe in these ideas or not, the existence of such beliefs influences actions in the world. Some individuals seek out items that carry personal connection because they believe it gives them influence or insight. Salons and barbershops become places where these items are easily found, not because anyone is doing anything wrong, but because people simply do not think twice about what they leave behind. This is not about panic. It is about recognizing that what seems ordinary to you may hold different meaning to someone else. And that brings us to a deeper realization. You have more value than you think, even in the smallest parts of yourself. The lesson here is not to live in fear, but to walk in awareness and confidence. When you understand your worth, you begin to carry yourself differently. You become more mindful, more present. Knowledge is not meant to scare you. It is meant to strengthen you. So take this as a reminder to respect yourself fully, even in the things you once overlooked, because awareness is the first step toward personal power. When you walk into a salon or a barbershop, it feels like one of the most normal experiences in life. You sit down, you trust the person in front of you, and you leave feeling renewed and confident. But behind that simple routine, there is something worth thinking about. Every day, these places gather large amounts of hair that people leave behind without a second thought. It becomes part of the floor, swept away as waste, forgotten within minutes. Yet the truth is, what we ignore can sometimes hold unexpected significance. Awareness begins when you start noticing what others overlook. Consider how easily something personal can become accessible once it is no longer in your hands. No questions are asked, no attention is given, and no value is placed on it. This is what makes such places naturally open sources for anyone who may be looking for these materials. Not because there is wrongdoing happening openly, but because it happens quietly through neglect and habit. The lesson here is not about blaming the place or the people. It is about understanding how simplicity can create opportunity for others in ways you never imagined. When you understand this, you begin to see the importance of being mindful. Now think deeper about your daily routines and how often you move through life on autopilot. You trust systems, you trust environments, and you rarely question what happens after you leave. But growth begins when you shift from passive living to active awareness. This is not about becoming suspicious of everything around you. It is about recognizing that your presence and what comes from you has value beyond what you see. When you start to think this way, you take back a sense of control and responsibility over your own life. Awareness is not fear. It is strength in its quietest form. The real power comes when you choose to live with intention in even the smallest actions. You begin to respect the details, the moments, and the things you once ignored. Life is not just about the big decisions. It is also shaped by the unnoticed habits that repeat every day. When you become aware, you elevate the way you move through the world. You become someone who understands that nothing connected to you is truly meaningless. And in that understanding, you step into a stronger, wiser version of yourself, because awareness is the foundation of true personal power. As we move deeper into this conversation, it becomes clear that many of the ideas surrounding personal items like hair are rooted in culture, tradition, and long-standing beliefs. Across different parts of the world, people have passed down stories that give meaning to things we often ignore. These stories are powerful, not because they are always proven, but because they shape how people think and act. When you understand this, you begin to see that reality is often influenced by belief as much as by fact. This is where awareness becomes more than just observation. It becomes the ability to think critically while still respecting the depth of human experience. It is important to recognize that fear often grows in the absence of understanding. When people hear stories without context, they can easily feel overwhelmed or uncertain. But knowledge changes that. When you take the time to explore where these ideas come from, you begin to separate imagination from reality. You start to see which parts are symbolic and which parts are practical. This does not mean dismissing everything, but it does mean refusing to be controlled by fear. Instead, you become someone who listens, learns, and then decides with clarity. That is the kind of mindset that builds confidence and inner strength. There is also power in understanding how deeply culture can influence behavior. What one person sees as meaningless, another may see as deeply important. This difference does not make one side right or wrong, but it shows how diverse human thinking can be. When you accept this, you become more aware of the world around you. You stop reacting emotionally to everything you hear, and instead you respond with thought and balance. This is how you grow into someone who cannot be easily shaken by rumors or assumptions. You become steady, grounded, and aware of both perspective and truth. At the end of the day, the real lesson is not about believing every story or rejecting every idea. It is about strengthening your ability to think, to question, and to understand. When you develop this awareness, you gain control over your reactions and your mindset. You are no longer driven by fear or confusion, but guided by knowledge and clarity. This is how you protect your peace while still staying open to learning. And in that balance, you find true strength, because a mind that understands is a mind that cannot be easily controlled. As we come to the end of this message, remember that the true purpose of this discussion is not to create fear, but to awaken awareness. The world is full of beliefs, traditions, and unseen perspectives that influence how people think and act every single day. When you become aware of this, you gain the power to move through life with clarity instead of confusion. You begin to respect yourself on a deeper level, even in the smallest details that you once ignored. Awareness allows you to stay grounded, to think critically, and to make choices that reflect strength and understanding. Carry this knowledge with confidence, because when you are aware, you are always in control.